here's a Rayman 2 video. That's the intro. So the game starts off with a bunch of pirate ships in context that the world has been destroyed or something. It's a pretty big turn compared to Rayman 1's quirky and colorfulness, but here it's just very dark. We head into this giant ship where we see a bunch of pirates taking this blue frog thing called a glow box to sell, which conveniently has Rayman in it. The two celebrate that they're back together, but that joy soon ends when Rayman says that all of his powers are gone. All hope seems lost until a glow box grabs a lum thing from his mouth, and Rayman uses it to get the ability to punch. Then we get this slide segment where we grab red lums that restore Rayman's HP. After that, Rayman and Glowbox get separated and we see Rayman in the forest looking for Glowbox, until this fairy frog Murphy shows up and tells him how to play the game. Rayman plays similar to how he did in Rayman 1, though instead of throwing his fist, he throws glowing balls of light. Pretty big downgrade if you ask me. Like, what's good of having limbs attached from your body if you can't throw them? Helicopter hair lasts as long as you are in the air, opposed to just being able to do it for a few seconds. The ledge grab cancel returns from Rayman 1, which is great. The goldfish power-ups return, but instead of lasting until you die, if you get hit 3 times, it's gone. Rayman can also hang on to vines and walls that are on the ceiling as well. Heading forward, you'll see a cage. Returning from Rayman 1, instead of just needing them to unlock the final level, every 10 cages we break will increase Rayman's health. And they'll also have yellow lumps, this game's main collectible. You only really need them to access later parts of the world. Later in the level, Rayman runs into Glowbox's children. Rayman tells them that Glowbox got separated. Then Rayman asks where Lee the Fairy is, and they say the pirates took her. So Rayman keeps heading forward and meets these teensies who can't figure out who's the king. Rayman then asks where Lee the Fairy is, and all of a sudden the teensies no longer want to be king. That's pretty funny. Then the teensies say that Lee the Fairy is taken to the Fairy Galad. In order to head there, Rayman needs to go to the Hollow Doors, but thankfully the teensies know how to get there. Now this is the level hub where most people are familiar with, but in the Dreamcast version it's more like a world hub, which, you know, it's kind of worse to be honest. Another thing I forgot to mention is the PlayStation version of this game has some major differences. One of them being that the game has voice acting.
Flawless. You wanted me more, mister? No, what's bad? Now let's do Callan Bruce stew.
Not really. I feel weak and my powers have disappeared. You know, Glowbox, I think this might be the end.
But this came with a major downside. Chunks and chunks of levels are just missing entirely compared to other versions where they have the full thing. Heck, even the N64 version has the full levels compared to the CD-based console that is the PlayStation. The only really cool thing about the PS1 version is that you can access a Rayman 2 prototype if you beat the game. But hey, at least it didn't change the music unlike the Jaguar version of Rayman 1. Anyways, when you enter the Fairy Galad, you will encounter these pirates that can go into a one-on-one with holding one of the buttons. Rayman can strafe to attack the pirates to dodge your attack. Instead of just hitting enemies with 1 or 2 punches, these pirates take way more damage. These encounters are pretty basic and they can get old, but these encounters are pretty uncommon, so it doesn't really happen that much. Later in the level, Rayman finds the powder kegs and you can throw them up in the air to fend off enemies or just throw them head on. After rescuing Lee the Fairy, Rayman asks if she can give him back his powers. And unfortunately, Lee can't do that since she's too weak. Lee, however, suggests that Rayman awakens Polycus by reuniting the 4 masks. So then Lee gives Rayman the ability to grab things, and Rayman's on his merry way. On the next level, Rayman meets Sam, and he's willing to help Rayman get past the river. But if you bump into something or get too far away from that, Rayman just dies, you know, from the water. But You know, I guess he can't swim here because it's full of piranhas. Every now and then, you'll get a cutscene of the big ship that you escaped from. Wait, come to think of it, why is it called The Great Escape when it's all about getting back into the ship? I don't know, maybe I'm thinking too hard about this. But we get introduced to Razorbeard, this game's main villain. This guy destroyed the heart of the world and enslaved everybody. He even eats alum, bro. Virgin Mr. Dark versus the Chad Razorbeard. Later in some levels, you'll find this boss called Axel. Oh, that's it? Alright, that was fast. Yeah, the bosses in this game are a big step down from Rayman 1's bosses. Most of them can be beaten in a matter of seconds. Heck, there's even a boss where all you do is get on his head and it kills himself. Like, can you really call that a boss? But, like, you know, the game says it as one, so I guess. The only really good boss is the final boss, but more on that later. The next level, you find these rocket things with boots, and when you get on it, it makes this horse sound, which is pretty funny. And these horse things are pretty fun, but be careful not to bump into things, or else the horse will explode. Hey, you can even grab the powder kegs and fly to them. But if you bump into something, you will explode instantly, since it's not as durable as the horse. Later in the level, Rayman meets Clark, who is tired, and Clark tells Rayman to head back to one of the first levels in the game to take this alternate path, where it takes him to the Cave of Bad Dreams. If you headed there before Clark told you, this eyeball monster would tell you that you would need to know the name of the place before you could enter. If you head now knowing the name of the place, the eyeball monster will teleport you there, but he also warns you that if he catches you, he will show you no mercy. Yikes. And the level itself is pretty good on its own, but it's when you get to this one part where you're almost to the end of the level, but then you see the eyeball monster crawling up, trying to kill Rayman. Then you get this cool slide section from the view of his mouth. This part is really sick. After that slide segment, you'll have a boss fight with the eyeball monster. Pretty basic boss fight. All you have to do is just like hit the platforms at the right time and head to him. After you defeat him, he offers you a potion that will cure Clark's weakness, or the whole treasure in this room. And you actually get a choice here. If you pick the treasure, you get a bad ending where Rayman is fat on an island. But you know, you pick the potion obviously, but you want to keep playing. Now with all of these levels, you see is that they have variety. But Rayman 2 understands that it's a platformer, so it will still involve like navigating an obstacle course, not like changing the entire game genre to not get stale. Just like the first game, every level is good. Well, there's this one part I don't like, where you're on this pirate ship and you gotta like save Globox's children. It's confusing to navigate, but that's just one part of a really good level. Skipping on to the final level, and god damn, this level rocks. Like, the slight segment in this level is the hardest one yet. And there's one last horse segment, but it can fly now, and it feels so satisfying to fly. And now the final battle against Razorbeard, and this fight is so much fun. But then all of a sudden the floor breaks, and just when you think Rayman is doomed, the horse shows up and saves him. And now he has to fight Razorbeard with rising lava. After defeating him, the world is saved. But where's Rayman? Oh, he's gone. All we have of him is his foot. Oh, never mind, he survived. And that's the game. Really good sequel. Rayman 2 is one of those sequels done right, where they take what worked in the original and crank it up to 11.